So good evening. Should we start? Yeah. So good evening, everyone. Again, thank you for joining.
I'll pull the prayers up. Wait a second. Okay, sorry. Okay. Sec.
Okay. First, before we recite the refuge and bodhicitta motivation prayers, we take a few moments.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. You can just leave it there.
Here it is. No, wait a minute. Okay.
So we can just take a few moments to focus on our breath, to quiet our mind, to bring our mind in the moment present.
What's going on? I lost it.
Then we can try to think and contemplate. There's nothing more important or meaningful than to be able to help to free all sentient beings from all their suffering and cause of suffering. And to be able to help them to achieve not only temporary happiness, but true ultimate happiness. In order to help them to liberate from all the suffering and cause of suffering, and help them to lead to ultimate happiness, I must achieve my own highest potential, the fully awakened state. Therefore, I'm going to actualize that fully awakened state as much as I can. And in order to attain that fully awakened state, I must engage in the bodhisattva's path practices. In order to engage in those practices, path and the practices, I must engage in the continue to study, learn, and to be reminded of those practices. For that very reason, I'm going to listen not only listen, but trying to integrate them in everyday life as much as possible. In my all actions throughout the day, week, months, year, throughout the life, until achieve fully enlightenment, may all of it become cause and condition to fully enlightened state. May all of them become cause and conditions to help benefit others and to bring joy and happiness in the life of others. Okay. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodan soge chonam la, chanju padu dane kapsuji, dagi shoshe gibe sonam ki, dola penje sangye du parasho. Sangye chodan soge chonam la, chanju padu dane kapsuji, dagi shoshe gibe sonam ki, dola penje sangye du parasho. 간제 르제니 손네 다다제 방베제 담베 슈니 튼제 고담데 라차차로. So so in explaining the king of the prayer, at the very beginning we talk about the four major kind of outline, and that is the first outline is engage in the practice of purification and accumulation of merit as a cause and condition so that all the prayer or aspiration become actualized. And then, second is then actually engaging into the prayer of engaging the different aspiration prayer of the bodhisattvas. Those the prayer and inspiration of the bodhisattvas who are at the beginning path and those who are in Arya path. And then also then there is the explanations of the benefit of engaging in such aspirations, and then the benefit of reciting such prayers. So I think that is the main four outline that include all of that. And we are in the first one where engaging into the practice of purification, accumulation, merit, and as part of that, then there is the practice of seven limb. And within the practice of seven limb, we finish the first four limbs, homage or prostrations, offerings, confessions, and rejoicings. So then we are on what is the page number? Yeah, page number 5, and where next fifth one is requesting to turn the wheel of the Dharma. And in that, no, not page number, is page number 4, sorry. Page number 4. And in the verse itself, it says, you, referring to the Buddhas, you who are the bright light who dispel all the ignorance of the sentient beings of the world in 10 directions, as well as the result of such ignorance, who dispel not only the ignorance, but the result of the ignorance, the sufferings, and all of that. So Buddha, you are that light. Also, who have attained, the Buddha who have attained Buddha's omniscient and all-knowing mind, knowing all the object that is there to be known. So there is no more object to be known anymore. And through the stages of awakening, by engaging in the path of the bodhisattvas and the practice, So all those Buddhas, all you who are my guides, and not only my guides, but the guides of all sentient beings in the 10 directions in 6 realms. And completely reliable guide, trustworthy guide, who understand each and every sentient being's mindset, inspirations, predispositions, and their needs, and to be able to guide and lead according to individuals' needs. And that is the supreme guide. It's not about just showing what you think is best for, what you think is best, but it's according to what's best for those individuals. And so all you are guide, please turn the supreme will of Dharma, and to that guides all the Buddhas, I make requests to please turn the supreme, vast, and extensive Dharma or the teachings according to the need of each and every sentient beings. And so that we make that request. And again, when we do that practice, when we do that, we can visualize, making offerings of, Dharma chakra, the wheel of the Dharma, unspoken, and making offering. And then the Buddha accepting the offering as well as your request. Again, all this, whether it's making offerings, whether it's making the Dhamma chakra offerings, from Buddha side, there is no need of that. But again, always the Buddha accept, so to give us opportunity to create merit. Buddha accept to give us opportunity to train in giving, and to help us to train in giving. And then also the Buddha is, in that sense, then Buddha is extremely pleased and delightfully accept the offering and the request. Again, okay. In Buddhism, the request is important. And that is why also traditionally at the beginning of teaching, we try to do the request prayer as well. Because Buddha himself told his followers, the bhikshus, do not teach unless it has been requested. And there are only exceptional cases where even if not requested, you can teach when you really see there is an interest, there is, and you see that it can be extremely beneficial. Otherwise, normally, unless it is requested, you shouldn't teach, And so also Buddha himself, after enlightenment, he didn't taught for 45 days. until he was requested. And then after, on the basis of that request, then he started teachings, So again, it is also, okay. And this, in term of this practice being antidote towards any negative thoughts towards the Dharma, any negative thought towards the Dharma, because when you request for the turning wheel of the Dharma, that means you appreciate the Dharma. If you don't appreciate the Dharma, if you don't respect, if you don't have high appreciation, you would not request that from your heart. And so therefore requesting to turn the wheel of Dharma from your heart become an antidote towards any negative thoughts towards the Dharma in terms of the antidotes. And then 6 is requesting to stay or live, until samsara ends. Or other words, until each and every sentient being is liberated. So with palms, the word itself here, with the palms together, I earnestly request, sincerely from my depth of my heart, I request, to whom? To you, the Buddha, you who may actualize parinirvana. So again, when you achieve fully enlightened state Buddhahood, there is no more dying. But they can show the aspect of passing away if there is no need of them help, no need of them or benefit of them in that situation, in that world, in that time. And so therefore, again, requesting is important. Who might actualize parinirvana, please stay with us, all sentient beings, for eons numberless as atoms of the world. In other words, please stay with us until the samsara ends, until each and every sentient being is liberated. For what purpose? For the happiness and well-being of all wanderers in the samsara. For the temporary happiness and ultimate well-beings. Ultimate well-beings of achieving the ultimate happiness of fully enlightenment. Those who are lost and wander in the samsara for all of that. So again, this is, again, when you do that, again, you can also visualize. When you do that, you can visualize offerings of, undistractable throne, and then the throne that you offer is accepted, that dissolve into the throne of the Buddha, and then again, the offering of the throne is accepted, and as well as your request to live until samsara end is also delightfully accepted by the previous. So again, when we have time, when we want to take a little time to do a little bit more properly, then that's how we do, taking a little time to do those visualizations or those, and then that can make the practice a little bit more powerful. Okay, and then that one, requesting the Buddhas to remain until the samsara end, or until each and every sentient being is liberated, is an antidote towards any negative thoughts that we might have towards the Buddhas or the gurus, if we request the guru and the Buddha to live for until the samsara ends. Again, when we request someone to have long life, when you request someone to live forever, that means, again, we respect, we appreciate, we regard very highly. That's why we want them. And so any negative thought that we might have towards them, then it becomes antidote to that, in terms of the antidotes. And then seventh is the dedications. And in many of the commentary, the difference between the prayer and dedication is slightly different. Okay. They say for the prayers, you don't need any substance. You can just pray whatever you want, any inspiration, any prayers that come in your heart. For the dedication, there must be something substance you have created to dedicate. So here, that we have created certain virtues, certain positive potentials, merit, whatever we call it. So there is something that you can actually, something there you have accumulated or you have collected, and that you dedicate that one for whatever purpose. But just for the prayer itself, then you don't need something like that. You can aspire anything that you want. You can pray whatever you want. So anyway, here, this is the dedications here. So that is a slightly different. Whatever slight positive potentials, virtues, or merit, then I might have created, by paying homage, offering, acknowledging my fault, rejoicing, and requesting the Buddhas to stay and teach. I now dedicate all this for full awakening. So, when we dedicate, we can think, whatever slightly positive potential or virtue that I might have created, myself, all the Buddhas, bodhisattva, others, and myself have created in the past, present, futures, especially whatever I've created now through such those 6 practices, I dedicate this on the behalf of all sentient beings. Not only just for myself, but on the behalf of all sentient beings, to achieve fully awakened state, so that I can be greatest benefit and help to each and every sentient beings. So dedicating for the enlightenment, full enlightenment and full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. And when you dedicate that, then you are dedicated for all sentient beings as well as the full enlightenment. And that would be the greatest dedications that you can think. And not only that, anything, when we make offerings, also any slight offerings, small, big, whatever, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche advised, when we offer, we try to offer not only on your behalf, but you try to, I'm offering this on behalf of all sentient beings. On the behalf of all sentient beings. Same when you dedicate, also we try to dedicate, I'm dedicating on the behalf of all sentient beings for fully enlightenment and for benefit of all sentient beings. So in that way, again, yeah. Right. And sometimes, like when we do different practices, different sadhana, different practices, a lot of practice start with 7 limb, and because again, for the success of the practice, purifying the obstacles and gathering the conducive conditions become very important. And so that is 7 limb is for that, So when you don't have time to recite so many, like sometimes you have the 7 line, just 7 not verses, 7 line of the, 7 line of the 7 limb practice, or you can just recite this last verse, that include all 7 also, this one, whatever slight positive potential I might have created by paying homage, offering, acknowledging my fault, rejoicing and requesting the Buddhas to stay and teach. I now dedicate all this for full enlightenment, also can include very short of that. I often observe His Holiness Dalai Lama when he, when there is no more time and when he try to do that in a very short, then he will recite this one, this verse to include the whole, all 7 limbs. And dedicating in such a way to fully enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings is a way to protect our merit or the virtues from being destroyed by other negative energies such as anger and wrong views, as well as a way to multiply. Not only it protect from completely being destroyed by some other negative forces such as anger or wrong view and so forth, it protect from that. Not only it protect, but also it also help to increase the virtues when we dedicate in such a way, many of the commentators and the teachers, lamas and teachers explain, for example, when we dedicate virtues, let's say for recover my illness, or for something like that, then you experience the result of that, and then once you experience, then that virtue is gone. But when you dedicate for fully enlightenment and for the benefit of all sentient beings, you continue to experience the result of that inexhaustible, until you achieve enlightenment, and so that is why it multiplies and is so powerful. So again, and that is why, as Adisha explained in his Garland of the Bodhisattva, as Lama Adisha explained, where he says in Lojo, there's 2 things very important at the beginning and end, and that's what beginning, the bodhicitta motivation, and the end, the right dedications. And the best dedication is to dedicate for all sentient, for the fully enlightenment, for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so those are important, that whatever practice virtue we try to do, dedications at the end. And so in terms of among those 7 limbs, frustrations and confessions are part of the purifying the obstacles. And then, offerings, rejoicings, requesting to turn the wheel of Dharma and to stay are part of practice of gathering the conducive conditions, creating the marriage. And the dedications is to increase those virtues, to increase, protect and increase the virtues. So in terms of the practice. So that is that. So now next, next here explains the inspiration and the practice of the bodhisattvas. And within that, then there is the practice or the inspiration and practice of the bodhisattvas who are on the path of, known as Mobachoba, means engaging in aspirations, or other words, the first two paths, the path of accumulation and path of preparations. So it is inspirations about the training in those two paths, and the inspiration of those bodhisattvas who are training in those two paths. And then there is the inspiration and the praise of the practice of Arya bodhisattvas, so which are the path of seeing and path of meditations, and within that there are 10 bhumis, in between that. And then lastly, the result of such practice, the bodhisattva practice. So then again here, three main outline within the second outline. And in the first one, then has again 10, and then the first one is training in, training your mind to become more pure. Training your mind to become more pure. That's on the path. And that one also first, making offerings to the Buddhas, and then, aspiring and dedicating for their wishes to be fulfilled. Okay. So here is, may you Buddhas now living in the present, in the world of 10 directions, the 4 direction up and down, and the 4 sub-directions, those 10 directions. Basically, so all the Buddhas who are present in the world of 10 direction now, and all who gone to freedom in the past, also all the Buddhas of the past who have achieved fully enlightenment, who have gone to the freedom, accept my offerings. So you visualize, making offerings, offering of your body, offering of your wealth, and offering of all your virtues. We take all these as offerings, and then make this offering to all the Buddha of past and present of 10 directions. And then again, as we mentioned before, then you imagine and visualize and feel that Buddhas delightfully accept your offerings for your own benefit, for our own benefit. And they experience, by having experience, they enjoy those offerings. By enjoying those offerings, it generates a great bliss of voidness in their heart. So then, and then, we and then may those not arising quickly, so those who have not already achieved fully awakened state now, those who are not already Buddha, but who are on the path to, those who are not at arising, meaning those who have not achieved Buddhahood at the moment, those who are on the way to Buddhahood, those who are in the training, so like those bodhisattvas, and non-bodhisattvas who are still training to achieve full enlightenment, to all of them, again, we make offering to them, again, same, our own body, wealth, and all the virtues of 3 times, we make offering to them. And having made offering to them, then we dedicate, for them to quickly perfect their mind, so that they can make their fully perfect their mind free from all the obscuration and actualize all the positive qualities, and thereby awaken as fully enlightened ones, and so dedicating them to all the bodhisattvas and those who are training on the bodhisattvas, them to achieve fully awaken as soon as possible. We make offering to them and we dedicate for their practice to be perfected and accomplish, actualize, and achieve full enlightenment. So this is a practice that we practice to dedicate, especially our virtues, all our virtues, to those who have already trained and become fully enlightened one, and those who are training to become fully enlightenment. We offer to them, and then dedicate all their wishes to be fulfilled. All their wishes to fulfilled, and also dedicating, that may we be able to do that in the future, all the futures, like that. So that is first, that one. And next one, is training to purify the place, to purify the place. Again, like previous, whatever virtues that we might have created, past, present, futures, we dedicate all these virtues, and we dedicate those virtues for what? What are we dedicating for? And so we are dedicating here to purify the places, So here, to purify that, may all world in 10 directions, worlds in 10 directions, be entirely pure and vast, like the pure land. So we purify and we imagine through the power of our virtues that we have dedicated, through the power of the virtues that we have dedicated, the whole world in the 10 directions transform into a pure and vast place, like a pure land, where it is free from all the faults of ordinary samsaric bliss, and imagine that, having everything as is described in the pure land, the whole base is made out of precious minerals, the whole place is full of beautiful ponds, waterfalls, and all water have 8 qualities. When you drink it, heal illness and everything, soothing, everything's those kind of qualities in the ponds, in the lakes, birds, and then there is wish fulfilling trees, all of those that there is a description in the Pure Land, that every sound it makes is the Dharma. The bird singing is the sound of the Dharma. When the wind blow the leaves, or the wind is the sound of the Dharma. Every sound, wherever it comes, is Dharma. Everything you see it gives rise to the virtuous thoughts instead of delusion. At the moment, in our world, when you see object, it gives rise to delusions. Sometimes attachment, sometimes anger, sometimes jealousy, sometimes fear, all these things. But there, instead of arising those, instead it gives rise to the virtuous thoughts. So we try to visualize transforming into that kind of place, celestial mansions of pure land. And may they be filled with bodhisattvas. And in that pure land, in that land, instead of being filled with unenlightened, ordinary being like us, full of delusions, may it be filled with bodhisattvas. In our ordinary world, there's full of people with anger, selfish attitude, attachments, jealousy, all of that. But instead, then in that we imagine and we dedicate and pray, may it be filled with all the bodhisattvas. And in the midst of all these bodhisattvas, surrounding the Buddhas gathered beneath the Bodhi trees. In the midst, in the center of that place, there is the palace, as is described in Pure Land. Again, Saleta Palace, made of, again, precious materials. And in that, then there's the Buddha, or in the garden, in front of that celestial mansion, there's a garden and there's Bodhi trees. And under the Bodhi trees, there's the Buddha. And then Buddha is surrounded by all the bodhisattvas and filled with bodhisattvas. So again, so basically, it's dedicating to purify and transform the place, the ordinary place, into something pure place, such as Pure Land. So that is the part of the dedications here. And then next is, dedicating training in dedicating, for the sentient beings, mostly those who are on the not already on the path, those who are not already in the path, dedicating them to have, temporary and ultimate happiness and well-beings. So again, as many beings as exist in 10 directions, may all the beings of 6 realms, may the beings of all the 6 realms as exist in 10 directions, may they always be free from, illness. And illness, so may they always be well here, means free from illness and having a good health. And when we talk about free from illness and good health, we can understand 2 ways. One is the physical image kind of illness and having a good health. The other is, being free from illness of all the suffering in the samsara, as well as the cause of all those suffering, the delusion, from the illness of the karma and the delusions. From the illness, free from the illness of the delusion and karma, and thereby, free from that, and find a physical well-being, physical health, as well as mental, emotional well. The mental health that is, beyond sit, beyond the sorrow, free from all that state. And happiness, and happiness, not only temporary happiness, but ultimate happiness, everlasting, unfluctuating, unchanging, everlasting true happiness. And may all samsaric beings live in accord with the Dharma, And may all samsaric beings of 6 realms live in accord with the Dharma by living in, through the right livelihood and so forth, free from the wrong livelihood, but living according to Dharma by living in, right livelihood and so forth. And may their every Dharma wishes be fulfilled. And may all Dharma, every Dharma wishes be fulfilled without any obstacles. May they be able to gather all the conducive conditions to fulfill all their Dharma wishes. So it's dedicating for every sentient beings to live according to the Dharma, and all their Dharma wishes to be fulfilled without any obstacles, and by gathering all the conducive conditions. And not only we dedicate for that, again, we also see the importance in order to for us also in our everyday life to fulfill our Dharma wishes, We have many Dharma wishes, And to fulfill all those Dharma wishes, of course, we need to practice. We need to contemplate, meditate. But also, we need to work on purifying the obstacles and to getting the conducive conditions to fulfill all this. Sometimes we forget that part. Sometimes we neglect that part. And then we struggle to have the result, the right result that we wish for. And just to give you an example, if you want a flower and a fruit, and when you plant, you need to have good, healthy seed. That is important. But that is not enough. You need to have good soil that is free, that you have cleared and free all the obstacles for the growth of that plant. And you need to gather all the conducive conditions, such as the water, the right heat, and everything's many other conditions that it needs. So without all these conditions, without purifying the obstacles and without getting the conducive conditions, just planting the seed, it will not grow. And that is not only with the external world, it also applies with our internal spiritual world. In order to grow our spiritual plant, the plant of our spiritual realizations, the plan of our spiritual experiences. In order to grow that, the main meditation practice is like a seed. For that seed of the meditation of practice, contemplation to grow into the plan of realizations, then we need to clear the obstacles. And that is where purification comes. And we need to gather the conducive conditions. That is where collecting the positive potential or the merit or the virtues, whatever you say it, that one. And when we take all these three aspects together, then you have better result. When we neglect one of them, then it is hard to have better, hard to accomplish the result. So again, that is to fulfill our Dharma's wishes. Then we dedicate for others as well as ourselves, but also we need to work on that too. That approach is more holistic. Taking all this practice together. And so in this commentary, it explained, up to here, up to here is more to do with training in cultivating loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, and cherishing thought for others. Up to here is more training in that. And from next, then once you have, trained to actualize, to cultivate loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, then how can we maintain them and not lose them? How can we maintain them so it does not decrease, so that it does not deteriorate, so that we don't lose that. Instead, we maintain and increase and improve, and so then, in relation to in that, then not to lose or forget and lose the bodhicitta mind, then there is, again, within that, and there is 5 practice. And first one is aspiring to remember our lives in all, remember our lives, and aspiring to become an ordained. So that is the one. So that is where next one comes. Remember my past lives in all variety of existence. So in order to be benefit to all sentient beings, as we mentioned at the very beginning of the motivation, in order to be greatest benefit and help to all sentient beings, then we have to achieve fully enlightenment. In order to achieve fully enlightenment, the root cause of fully enlightenment is the bodhicitta mind. Is the bodhicitta mind. And therefore, the practice to actualize bodhicitta mind for those who have not actualized, and those who have already actualized, not to diminish but increase more and more. On the basis of that, then working in the practice of 6 paramita is the key practice for the bodhisattvas. That is the heart practice of the bodhisattvas. That is the soul of the bodhisattva's practice. The wisdom is kind of common between bodhisattva and non-bodhisattvas. the wisdom path, the wisdom path and the path is common to both bodhisattvas and non-bodhisattvas, such as arhat and those who are on the path to arhat, individual liberations. But what makes bodhisattvas unique is that bodhicitta mind that differentiates whether someone is bodhisattvas or not, is that whether someone has the bodhicitta mind or not, regardless of whether someone has the wisdom realizing emptiness or not. Even you might not have wisdom realizing emptiness. If you have bodhicitta, you are bodhisattvas. If even you have direct realization of emptiness, if you don't have bodhicitta, then you are not bodhisattvas. And so therefore, one should engage in a practice to, focus on, emphasize and focus to cultivate and to maintain and to increase that bodhicitta mind, the very essence, very heart of the bodhisattva practice and the root cause for the enlightenment, And that is also what we try to practice, and that is also what we try to dedicate for others to, to be able to actualize that and maintain and increase that. So that's where it is, remembering my past life in all variety of exacts, So dedicating all our virtues to remember all past lives. If we remember all our past lives, then it can help in many of our practice, such as, many practice that's related about, past and future lives. Sometimes because we don't remember, sometimes we struggle. We have doubt. We are not sure. We are not convinced whether there is future life or not, or whether there was past life or not. Those who remember, many of them, they are convinced. They don't need any more proof. All different kind of reason, logic, anything, for them, they have experienced it. It's so real to them. For us who doesn't remember, then we struggles. Sometimes we started to have a little doubt, not totally convinced, and so then when you are not totally convinced, then it also affects many practice, because many practice is very much related on that understanding that there's past and future life. Then also our faith in karma also become a little bit shaky, because again, when you talk about karma, we talk about past, coming from past, and so therefore, if you can remember, then it can be helpful, in many of those practices. Also, it can be helpful, then we can see how others are our mothers, how others have been our mothers. At the moment, we struggle also sometimes that, or fathers, or grandfather, mothers, or siblings, whatever, best friend, but once you remember that, then you can see these countless lifetimes, so then it helps us to have one, better trust, better faith in past and future life. Through that, more faith in the karma and understanding karma. Also to understand how everyone has been our most kind mother, father, and all of that. And then to be able to remember the kindness as well. And also, so it helps in many, many different levels of practice, So therefore, that is where the prayers, and not only remember all different, lives within the 6 realms at different time, by remembering that, may I also practice the bodhisattva way, And thus, in each cycle of death, so in each of those lives, from the beginner's life, countless life, in each cycle of death, migrations, and the birth, may I always abandon householder life. So here, what it means, we are talking about the practice of bodhisattvas who are on the very beginning level, not higher bodhisattvas, Arya bodhisattva. We are still at the moment, this practice related with the practice at the bodhisattva who are a bit beginner, And at the very beginning in practice, when you are a householder, in general speaking, you have more obstacle to practice the Dhamma. You have more distractions, You have more responsibility to do other things. Even if you want to dedicate yourself for the Dhamma, sometimes it's hard because you have all this responsibility as a householder. Whether you want or not, but you have this obligation, responsibilities. And through that, then being distracted to other things and not being able to fully dedicate on the practice. And therefore, not being a householder at the very beginning is helpful in your practice. And then it will come, once you have reached certain realization, like Aryas, Bodhisattvas, then for them it doesn't make difference whether they come as a householder or not householder, because their practice has become so strong, it doesn't affect, even with it, probably it only increased their practice even more, being a householder in that kind of environment. And it is same, like we can see, if someone has a strong practice and tool, strong tool through the strong practice, the more difficult, more challenging situation, the more their practice increase. For those who doesn't have those tools and those strong practice, the more challenging, the more it knock them down. The more it knock them down, the more they become hopeless, the more they become, depressed, the more they become, negative and dark about everything because there's so much challenge and they don't know how to deal with that because they don't have the right tools and the practice to deal with that. On the other hand, those who have strong practice tool, the more difficult, more challenging, the more stronger their practice become. The more they increase, the more practice. So it depends on individuals, how much strong practice and tools they have. So that is why here, at the very beginning level, bodhisattvas, when they don't have those strong tools, then being in environment where you are not householder, where you can totally dedicate yourself to the practice, become more suitable to increase your practice. But once you have reached a certain point and when your practice has become stronger, it doesn't matter whether you're a householder or not. As I mentioned, in some cases, being a householder make your practice even more stronger. So that is so here, commentary, it says this with that kind of intention motivation, the intention and motivations to dedicate, to remember all the past life, and to practice in both the way of life, and also, to be able to abandon the householder life and to be able to have, celibacy life or whatever, ordained. so that you can focus, so that you can dedicate. So you can dedicate and focus all your energy, all your resource, all your time towards cultivating the bodhicitta mind and to maintain, to increase and improve the bodhicitta mind. For that purpose, for that reasons, nothing more than that reasons. And so therefore here, they said that is the first cause of maintaining the bodhicitta. With that become the first one of the cause of maintaining the bodhicitta mind. You know, even though we have generated bodhicitta mind now, but we can lose in the next life until you reach certain point. There is a certain point, there is no more coming back, or no more going back. You don't lose anymore. But until we reach certain point, you can lose your bodhicitta mind unless you continue to work on that. You know, and so therefore, even we have generated bodhicitta mind, if we don't have right condition the next time, and if we don't work correctly, then we could lose that. And so therefore, in order to have the right conditions so that we can continue to build up from the practice that we have already engaged into this life, such as cultivating bodhicitta, so that we can maintain, so we can increase, improve, and other practice. So then to have that conditions important. And so therefore it's dedicating to have that kind of better conditions to maintain that bodhicitta mind. Next is dedicating to not to degenerate our practice of moral discipline. You know, the practice of moral discipline, and not only practice of moral discipline, but especially the moral discipline of the bodhisattvas. You know, especially the practice of moral discipline of the bodhisattvas, which is the second paramita, the paramita of moral discipline. You know, and the paramita of moral discipline is to, avoid, the selfish attitude, and to avoid harming others through body, speech, and mind out of that selfish attitude. Non-bodhisattva practice of moral discipline, for example, those who train and practice of moral discipline, who are, let's say, on the path to arhat, they avoid harming others, mainly because if you harm others, you will experience a negative karma of that, which is pain and sufferings. In bodhisattvas, the motivation is different. It comes from bodhicitta mind. It's not because if I engage something, I will experience a negative consequence of it in the future, or here, now, or in the future, because it's another sentient beings, and therefore I shouldn't hurt and harm any sentient beings. Therefore, it tries to avoid this selfish attitude, and out of that, harming others out of that selfish attitude through 3 doors is one of the main moral discipline of the bodhisattvas. And then the moral discipline of engage in the practice in the other virtues, such as other paramitas, and then moral discipline of benefiting and helping other sentient beings. Those are 3 types of the bodhisattva moral discipline, in the practice. And so again, keeping those moral discipline is again another cause to not to lose the bodhicitta mind and to maintain the bodhisattva mind. Bodhicitta mind. So here it then following in the footsteps of all the Buddhas, perfecting the practice of bodhisattvas. May I always act without error or compromise, without any fault, in regard to with ethical discipline, faultless and pure. So this ethical discipline, especially the the bodhisattva ethical discipline, and within that, especially like once we generate the bodhicitta mind, then in order to stabilize it, then you take the aspiring bodhicitta precept of the vows, and then on the basis of the aspiring bodhicitta precept of the vows, then you take the bodhisattva vows, engaging bodhisattva vows, and so again, and those are the way to not to lose the bodhicitta mind, which we have already generated so those keeping those precepts of the vows are the way to maintain the bodhicitta mind, because we don't deteriorate, so we can maintain, not only we can maintain, that we can improve and increase. In order to improve and increase and not to deteriorate, then we try to keep those precepts and the vows. That is the main purpose of keeping those vows and precepts, so that we don't lose those. We don't lose or deteriorate the bodhicitta mind, which already generated, but instead we maintain and increase and improve. And therefore that is important to keep those vows of precept faultless and pure as much as possible. The ethical discipline, the precept, the vows, the bodhicitta vows, both aspiring and engaging those precept of the vows. And that is another cause to maintain the bodhicitta mind from deteriorating and from losing it. Yeah. And as I mentioned before, the main is whether it's aspiring bodhicitta mind or whether it's engaging bodhicitta mind, precept the vows, the main thing is really trying to avoid from cultivating a selfish attitude. And that is what we try to avoid. That's why we trying to generate cherishing thought for others. And when we are able to avoid that kind of selfish attitude, and when we are able to cultivate the cherishing thought for others, a lot of those harmful action will stop by itself. For example, the first vows, praising yourself, criticizing others. Why you praise yourself, criticize others is out of selfish attitude, the self-centeredness. When you don't have that kind of selfish attitude, self-centeredness, instead, when you have cherished the other person, you will not criticize, you will praise them. You will not praise yourself, you might criticize yourself. It will be other way around. But at the moment, we do that because of that selfish attitude, self-important, And second one, for example, not giving the wealth or the dharma when you are asked and when you can and when you are able to do, is again because of the selfish attitude. If we don't have selfish attitude, if we have the cherishing thought for others, when we are something we can give, something we are able to help, give, we wouldn't have hesitation to do that. And so therefore, that is where keeping the success for keeping those precepts and the vows pure and faultless is really trying to watch our mind and not allowing the selfish attitude to arise as much as possible. Trying to generate cherishing thought for others as much as possible. And out of that motivation, then we try to avoid any action that could, bring any harm, pain, suffering, hurt to others, to the body, speech, and mind. So that is. And then next one. Dedicating to be able to teach the sentient beings the Dharma, not only Dharma, here the Mahayana Dharma, the bodhisattva practice teachings, according to their languages. May I teach the Dharma? Of course, like teaching Dharma doesn't mean you have to be on a special throne, While you are just engaging with individual in conversation, you might share knowledge, the experience of the Dharma, and that is teaching, Or when you are reciting some mantras to your pets, that could be like teaching to the pets, Or teaching them not to hurt and harm another beings, when they try to attack another beings, your dog, your cat. If you see them, they're trying to catch something, trying to bite something, trying to run, chase something, just teaching them not to do that. It's a teaching a Dharma, So there can be many different ways we can teach Dharma. Sometimes when we think of teaching Dharma, we have this image of a Lama or someone sitting on a high throne and then giving lecture or something like that. It can be in different way, with a different individual in so many different ways. May I teach Dharma in the language of gods, in every language of spirit, nagas, of humans and demons, and in the voice of every form of beings. So again, it is mentioned, when the Buddhas teach, in the audience, there are all kind of beings, and all kind of beings are able to receive the teachings, able to hear and receive the teachings in their own language. Human beings hear in human language, and other beings hear in their own language. That is the one of the qualities of the speech of the enlightened beings. So again, dedicating to be able to have that kind of qualities in our speech, and even human beings, there are different languages, and to be able to teach into different languages of different human beings as well, whatever beings who can hear and communicate in whatever language, to be able to do that so that we can share the knowledge, the wisdom, and the experience that can be beneficial and helpful to them. So here, teaching Dharma, not only teach Dharma, here the Dharma referred mainly for the Mahayana Dharma, the bodhisattva practice, and the Dharma. And so, and therefore, when you try to, preserve the Mahayana Dharma, and when you try to spread the Mahayana Dharma, share the Mahayana Dharma, then that is one cause of maintaining bodhicitta. Also, it is one of the cause to maintain the bodhicitta mind, because again, we engage in a practice that explain how to cultivate the bodhicitta mind, how to maintain, how to increase, how to improve. We try to share that with others. We try to, in whatever way we can, to share with others with that great intention, bodhicitta intention, motivations, and so that then that become cause again to not to deteriorate and lose your bodhicitta, but to maintain the bodhicitta mind, to increase and improve the bodhicitta mind. Okay. So I think I will maybe any questions? Any questions or any comments?
So oh,
Go ahead, Pat.
no, go ahead, Louise.
Okay, Geshe,
Yes.
in the beginning when you were talking about dedicating merit or virtue of the 3 times, um, it's how so it is possible to rededicate because I'm sure I've rededicated over and over in the past. You can dedicate the same virtue over more than once.
Yes, yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes. You can dedicate. We can dedicate every day, all the time. Because that virtues, as we have dedicated, it is still there. As I mentioned, when you dedicate for the enlightenment and for all sentient beings, you haven't used it completely. It is still there. There is still there. And so there is something that you can dedicate, continue to dedicate. It's like the money is still in the bank. It's not, so you can still use there. Yes. Yes.
So I was wondering, I guess first of all, so um, in a monastic's training, you would simply memorize. You would memorize this.
Yes.
So is that something that you would recommend? To try
Well,
to,
of course, if someone can memorize, that is all wonderful. Uh, Anything. If we can memorize all the prayers, all the teachings, that will be wonderful. And that is one of the reasons why actually the Tibetans lamas were able to keep the Dharma. When
yes,
they left the Tibet, they had nothing. They came all empty head. They couldn't bring the Dharma books, anything. And when they first came in India, they didn't have any Dharma books at the very beginning. But still they were able to teach
yes,
because they had memorized themselves. So they teach from memorizations, all the script, all the root scriptures, commentaries, not only prayers. And until again they were able to bring the slowly books came from Tibet and slowly they started to reprint and all of that. But at the very beginning, when they first came, most of them have no books, no scriptures, and still they continue to able to share and teach because of all of that.
yeah, yeah.
So if we memorize, definitely it has advantage in the sense that if your iPad broke down, the light go on, battery run out, and you don't, especially now, you don't have hard copy, and then even you want to do the practice prayer, you cannot do it. But if you have it memorized, you can do, whether there's light, not light, wherever you go, you have the access to that. So, but of course, sometimes it's not easy to memorize. So if you can memorize, it's good.
Yeah, because it occurs to me that with your commentary, this is a very long practice. the prayer can be a very long practice with all the visualizations and the sense of the offerings and so on. I've mostly read this slowly, but not with all of those enhancements and
Yeah, I think, of course, like when we try to go through the commentary, then it becomes long, and then if you do everything correctly, then it could be 2 days, 3 days to complete one. But you don't have to worry about that. We study and we learn, and even with the practice, with visualization, maybe if someone does the King of Dharma every day, for example, you know the first verses visualization you do today, others you might not do. Tomorrow you do the second one, the next day you do the third one, fourth one. So in that way you get familiarity with that, but you don't spend because we don't have time to spend hours on that. And in that way, then still, and that is also what they do in the monastery too, sometimes because they have time limit. And, even with chanting, they cannot chant every verse is chanting because it will take 3-4 hours. So this time they will chant some part. Next time which they have chanted, they will recite, and then the what which they have not chanted today, they will chant the next times. So in that way they get refreshed with all these different chantings, but at the same time they don't have to spend so many hours that. And so similarly we can do it like that way too, and yeah. Yes, Wanda.
It's like a double-edged, two questions in one, because you were
Uh-huh.
talking about past lives and your moral discipline. What happens to people? My husband and I, Daniel and I, we took our vows with you in Santa Fe, because that's where we had lived. Now we don't live there. He passed away. My thing is, I was doing King of Prayers for him.
Mhm.
My question is, what if you're in the bardo? You're not remembering your past lives. You're not, and if you die and when you died, you have Alzheimer's, even though you had the tools in the toolbox that you practiced when you were alive.
Mhm.
But as you're getting towards the end, your memory is going. What happens? What happens there?
Mhm. One of the things I notice is, if we practice for a long time, and if you are very familiar with the practice for a long time, I notice with some patients who have dementia, they cannot remember they have short memory or no memory of the present.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm seeing they have access to the old ones where they are
Mm-hmm.
good.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I've seen that some
Yeah.
even monks in the present they ask you something, you explain, and then they forgot
Mm-hmm.
it, and again they
Mm-hmm.
don't remember you are explaining again. They will ask again what
Mm-hmm.
same
Mm-hmm.
thing again and again, or sometimes they don't recognize the person clearly or almost. But then when you talk about Dharma or something, then it's you don't sometimes even recognize they have this illness so clear with all of that. So that is one thing I have noticed. Someone when they have so familiarity for a long time, even in such cases, they could have access to those practices, and that's the one thing I noticed with quite at least a couple of people that Dharma practitioners, old Dharma practitioners. There is that part. But even someone, let's say, doesn't remember that and they have lost everything, you know, but still it is mentioned, generally speaking, at the time of death, whatever karma is more stronger, that will manifest first. So positive karma or negative karma. So if we have lived our life more positively, our positive karma is more stronger. If we have lived mostly in our whole life, then our negative karma might be more stronger at the time of death. So whichever is more stronger, that will manifest first, generally. And then if they are kind of equal, then whichever you did first, then that manifests that. All of that. That is more kind of general how the karma at the time of death that can manifest in general. But again, even someone might not have tools, still their mind can be calm and peaceful too.
But how do you remember your past? You were saying remembering your past lives. How does one remember their past lives? Okay, you're saying like the King of Prayers is a powerful prayer. It's
Yes,
a
yes.
most beautiful, wonderful prayer. Okay. And if you're doing this for the dead, do you believe that they'll remember their past lives if they don't go to enlightenment and they're coming back?
No, I wouldn't say necessarily just by your prayer they will be able to remember that. This is a prayer that we actually do for ourselves and others both.
Yeah, because it helped me.
Yeah, a lot of those practice is we do the practice ourselves. By engaging the practice ourselves, then we create a lot of virtuous merit, and then we dedicate that merit to others.
Right.
That is how it really works. How the dedication prayer works is whatever virtues I engage into, prayers, meditations, making offerings, whatever different practice.
Right.
One engage with the right intention, motivations, and those practice, and through that we have accumulated or gathered a lot of positive potential seeds. And there is something that we can share, that we can dedicate, and that's what we dedicate and share. So again, so even though we wish, dedicate, and pray for someone for something, it helps. It doesn't hurt. But in order to accomplish, many conditions have to come together. It's one of the conditions. There is something also, their karma and other conditions, our connection with them. The stronger connection you have, the more you can influence through your practice in dedication. The more karmic connection you have more influence. The more stronger realization, the more pure you are, the more you are able to effect. So there are many factors that can contribute more strongly to the others through your practice virtues. Even though everyone is doing the same prayer or same practice, but depending on what karmic connection they have, the person who's doing, how pure they are, how high realization they are, those can make a different effect on different level of effect, let's say. And so therefore, those are so many factors are together there.
Okay, thank you, Geshe.
Most welcome. So then we can do dedications if there's no. So again, the first two I'm going to chant in Tibetan, and you can follow me or do in English, whatever you feel. Gewadi nyodo da nama sangye do gyone do wa chi kya ma le ba te sa la kwe sem cho rembo che ma ge pa na ge gyuru chi ge wa nyam ba me ba kon de kon do pe wa sho. The English, okay. The wish granting, wish fulfilling you, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparable kind things in Gazo, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Peerless teachers and assembly of the children of the victorious one, Sabaka and Pratika Buddha, victorious Lord and Father and Son, along with the lineage masters, all objects of refuge and infinite land, please bestow the virtues and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You hold the more patience that is never discouraged, incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I may request, while starting single-pointedly to the sake of victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all the benefit and happiness emerge. And for the mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace, what a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessing of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious one, may the smile of reincarnation sweetly beam in the glory for the fortunate disciples. Thank you very much. And Wanda, I'm sorry to hear about Dano. I didn't know that. And yeah, and I will keep in my prayer as well.
Thank you, Geshe.